I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV for the week of March 21st, 2012. We're going to kick things off this week with our top 5 from last week. Take it away, Josh.
Alright, our top 5 comics last week were starting at number 5 and counting down to the number 1 spot. Suicide Squad, number 7. Avengers Assemble, number 1. Wolverine and the X-Men, number 7. Green Lantern, number 7. And number 1, with a bullet, Saga number 1. Just as a point of interest, Saga number 1 sold as many copies as 2, 3, and 4 combined. Saga number 1 was a huge success, and we thank you for checking it out. We hope you liked it as much as we did. If you didn't check it out, we're going to have reprints of the first issue out when the second issue hits on April 11th. And also, if you didn't check it out, you're wrong.
And some people were asking at the counter, and I was misinformed at the time. It is, in fact, a monthly series, not every other month. So as long as they stay on schedule, we will see a new issue of Saga every month.
Yes, it's monthly so far.
Yes. And as Josh said, thank you for taking a chance on this book. I know a lot of you picked it up that don't normally read Image Comics, that don't normally read books like that. And I hope you're glad that you picked it up. We didn't get very many returns at all. So I'm assuming that you liked it if you kept it. Or maybe you burned it and threw it in the trash, I don't know. But thanks for checking it out, and we hope that you'll continue to do that. Image Comics is going to have a bang-up year this year. I really think Image is going to be in that third publisher position, which kind of fluctuates or rotates between a number of publishers. But Image has a really strong 2012 ahead, and keep checking that stuff out. This week, we're going to run through the books that we think are great, and we'll start things off with Batman number 7. This is the first issue of a new... Actually, it's kind of like a... I don't want to say a fill-in issue, but it's the calm before the storm. Let's put it that way. The first 6 issues involve the Court of Owls and put Bruce/Batman through hell, broke him down like he hasn't been broken in a very long time. And this issue, we get to see the after effects of that, and there are some startling revelations in Batman number 7, which will lead into Batman number 8, which is the beginning of the Night of the Owls Batman event, which looks to be awesome. And again, this is spearheaded by writer Scott Snyder, who is Mr. Batman now. That's what we'll call him.
And also, Batman number 7 sort of begins the crossover a little bit by crossing over with Nightwing number 7. You get to see the same interaction between Dick and Bruce, but from different points of view with different conversation a little bit and some different changes, and it really kind of whetted the appetite for some Court of the Owl stuff to get going.
Read Batman first.
Yes.
That's my recommendation.
Yes, I made that mistake. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on.
It's not going to be a deal breaker if you don't read it first, but I would recommend reading Batman first and then Nightwing.
Absolutely. Also up new this week, we've got Smoak and Meers number 1. This is an indie book coming out. And it's written by Mike Costa, who's a relative newcomer. He's been doing a great job on G.I. Joe Cobra pretty much from the first issue, just knocking that book out of the park. He was on some of the Transformers books for a while. And this new one is his first creator-owned work in comics, and it's very cool. It's kind of it's a world where they have magic instead of technology. The whole first third of the book is actually sort of a mock Apple presentation. You know how Steve Jobs comes out with his turtleneck and tells you he's bringing you the future? It's like that, except rather than bringing the new iPhone or the new iPad, the character in the book is telling you about the new line of spells from their company, or how different types of magic power your refrigerator and your car. And it's very cool. He's a good grasp on the world. It's very good at making you feel kind of lived in, like the logical leaps that you would make in a world where magic was more common than technology. The central character is a young boy who's a bit of a ragamuffin, kind of in and out of trouble, and...
yes, he said ragamuffin.
I did say ragamuffin. People say that, right? And it's very cool. The kind of hook at the end of the book is there's a guy who appears to be more from our world than this mystical world, who's an illusionist, a street magician. And these people who are used to magic can't figure out how he's doing these things, because why would you try and make something look one way when you can just do it with magic? So it's a really cool hook into a neat world, and it's another new indie book that you should be checking out.
Speaking of new indie books, Supercrooks number 1 came out this week. This is the new book by Mark Millar, the guy who created Kick-Ass and Wanted and did some great stuff over at Marvel with Civil War and Old Man Logan. Pencils on this are by Leinil Yu, who has worked with Millar before on Superior and has done a lot of great stuff over at Marvel. And this is, again, a creator-owned book, and the premise is you've got a bunch of super crooks who are running into superheroes at every every turn, and after being beat down and imprisoned one too many times, they realize, why are we staying in the United States trying to rob the same banks over and over again in New York or someplace else? Let's go to a country that doesn't have superheroes, and that country is going to be Spain. So you never hear of Captain Spain or any Spanish heroes, apparently. So that was the setup for the first issue, and it looks like it's going to be a good, kind of... The title says it all, Supercrooks. It's a group of superpowered crooks that get together and go to a different country to find wealth and fame. And I liked it. Millar's stuff is sometimes it's a little crass, sometimes it's a little, really hard edge, sometimes it's not. And this was, kind of what I expected it to be, and I really enjoyed it. I mentioned at the top of the episode that Image is going to have a banner year this year. This could be an amazing year for Mark Millar. He's got a number of projects coming out this year with A-list pencilers on board, from Dave Gibbons, who penciled Watchmen, to Frank Quitely, to Steve McNiven. There's just a whole lot of stuff. And then continuing in the Kick-Ass universe, we're going to get a new Hit Girl miniseries later on in the year. So if you're a Mark Millar fan, this is going to be a great year for you, and it all starts with Supercrooks #1.
Also new this week is Spider-Man 682. This is the first real issue of the Ends of the Earth storyline. For the past couple years, they've been sort of slowly rebuilding the Sinister Six. Some characters being new incarnations or being slightly different powered, and we've been dealing with Doc Ock going crazy and dying and sort of trying to leave his mark on the world before he succumbs to loneliness and death. And this is where it all comes to a head. It's got a great feel. Dan Slott really has just been awesome on Amazing Spider-Man pretty much his whole run, and this run promises to be even better than the other stuff. Peter's been working at Horizon Labs, and the first chunk of the issue actually kind of shows the impact of his spider inventions on the world. And this is kind of a common thing, we talk about if you have Tony Stark and Reed Richards and Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, why is their world so similar to ours? Well, now we're seeing in Spider-Man kind of their answer to that. These are the things Peter's done that have changed lives, designing bike helmets and different types of things to keep people safe and improve the quality of life. And it gives you a good feel for where Peter's at, and as you know, the rule is when Peter Parker is happy, bad things happen to him. And so we get to see the setup where essentially Doc Ock holds the world ransom using some sort of contrivance with global warming, and...
Al Gore was there, I don't know.
There was a polar bear that was kind of crying like the Indian in the river.
Al Gore is one of the new Sinister Six, isn't he?
Yes, I think so, yeah. But... great read. First part of Ends of the Earth, you should totally jump on if you're a Spider fan, especially if you're a Lapsed fan, because this is kind of a return to the classic Spider-Man villains, and we get to see possibly the final throwdown with Doc Ock.
And notice it was Josh talking about Amazing Spider-Man this weekend, not me, but I have to reiterate, if you have not read any of Dan Slott's run on Amazing Spider-Man, and you call yourself a Spider-Man fan, you are wrong. you need to go back. All of his stuff has been collected, starting with issue number 648, and it has been non-stop greatness. Justice League #7 is next on my list, and it's on time this month, which is nice. It's back to the third week of the month.
And why is it on time?
It's on time because we have a different penciler. Sorry folks, I know you all love Jim Lee, but we get guest pencils this issue by Gene Ha, who is no slouch either. And this issue of Justice League actually brings the book to a present-day DC New 52. The first story arc took place 5 years before the rest of the new DC titles that started, so now we're on the same playing field with the rest of the new DC 52, and it's great to see how the team has evolved or not evolved over the last 5 years. And Ha's pencils are so different from Lee's stuff that it's just fun to look at and fun to like. One of the big selling points of issue #7 is we get the first appearance of the new 52 version of Shazam. And they really take this and turn it on its head. I mean, and it's good, in a good way. So if you're a fan of the Big Cheese, if you're a fan of Captain Marvel / Shazam, you absolutely want to pick up Justice League #7 and see what he's going to look like in the new 52.
And it's an ongoing backup. Shazam's going to continue in the backup of Justice League, and pencils on that is Gary Frank.
Written by Jeff Johns, pencils by Gary Frank.
Yes, very cool. And I couldn't tell you 5 things about Steve Trevor in the old universe. But Steve's playing the liaison between the government and the Justice League, and in one issue they really made you love this character. It's just, they characterize him in a wonderful way. They're doing a great job. Justice League is awesome. That is all. Next up on my list, New Mutants #39. This is one of Marvel's C-list X titles that is consistently good. And it's being written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who've been on the last arc or so, doing a great job. They're revisiting the death of Warlock, the death of Doug Ramsey and Warlock. They're back on the island, and it's a great thing. All of the human people on the team, or mutant people on the team, are incapacitated. Their minds aren't clear because they've got this kind of plague disease. So Warlock has to take over the team. So the whole issue is narrated from Warlock's point of view. And he has his great weird speech patterns and his kind of insightful, funny dialogue. And it's just really, Warlock's a great character. He's a lot of fun, and he doesn't get played nearly often enough. New Mutants is doing a great job of making that fun.
Doesn't get play. What does that mean?
It's like Velma from Scooby-Doo. She never got much play.
She doesn't get play either. Moving right along. Joy was restored to my world this week with Rocketeer Adventures, Volume 2, Number 1. You may recall, if you've been a longtime viewer of the show, that I loved the first volume of Rocketeer Adventures published by IDW, which is an anthology series where they got some great writers and artists together to tell short Rocketeer stories. And they're kicking off Volume 2 with a bang. We've got a story written by Mark Guggenheim, who's done a lot of TV work. He is working on the new Arrow series over at the CW Network. And that one's penciled by Sandy Plunkett. And we've got a story by Peter David with pencils by Bill Sienkiewicz, which is just worth the price of admission right there. All I have to say is Duck Dodgers, maybe. It's awesome. And the last story is written and penciled by Stan Sakai, who created Usagi Yojimbo. And all three of these stories, they're just so good. I mean, they're short. I mean, we're talking about 6 pages maybe, tops. But each of them in that short amount of time tells a really poignant story. And the story by Stan Sakai was really cool. I don't know if you caught all that stuff. But you really have to see it. They kind of name check a famous DC hero and show how he was perhaps influenced by the Rocketeer back in the 1940s. So great stuff, and again, I believe this is either it's another 4-issue miniseries, and we've got rotating creative teams, and it's just a lot of fun, especially if you're a Rocketeer fan.
Next up on my list, Invincible Iron Man 514. It's no secret that I've loved Matt Fraction's Invincible Iron Man pretty much from issue 1. It's continued to be strong. Fraction has a tendency to kind of ebb and flow, kind of slowly build up and then do an epic storyline, and it's been more on the building up lately, so we're really headed for a point, or a peak, I guess is what you build up to, is a peak. But in Fear Itself, as we all know, Tony kind of fell off the wagon and got a little drunk while driving an Iron Man suit, which is apparently a big no-no in the eyes of the government. So the government's after him. He's still being pursued by Stain's son, and the Mandarin, and the Hammer twins, or the Hammer women. So like all your great Iron Man villains there, even the B and C list people are being employed as minions, and it's just really fun. I almost hesitate to call this an Iron Man book. Really, since Fraction took over, it's a Tony Stark book. It's mostly about the trials and tribulations of being Tony Stark. It's about his personal growth and development and his relationships, and it's really good. It's easily the best superhero book ongoing for the last couple of years, in my opinion at least.
That's debatable, but we won't do that today. But tune in next week for the debate. Always at the top of my list, but I haven't mentioned it in a while, is The Goon by Eric Powell. And this week we saw The Goon number 38 come out, which is just a very emotional tale of the Goon's Aunt Kizzy. And if you're familiar with the character, if with the book The Goon, you know that she was his guardian, his idol. She was a strong woman in a circus, and we get to see her backstory here, which we've never seen before, and it was really, really good. One of the main reasons I'm mentioning this today, and the main reasons I'll mention the next things I'm going to talk about, is because so many of you bought Saga last week. Saga was such a huge hit, and it's an independent book. I'm hoping that some of you who maybe this was your first experience with an independent comic will branch out and check out some of these other things that are really worth your time and money. And one of those things is The Goon. Written and drawn by Eric Powell, creator-owned, only 38 issues, but Powell's been doing it for, I think, 10 years in various forms. And all of the backstory is available in graphic novel format, so it's very easy to jump in and check it out. And it's hard to put a genre on The Goon. It's funny, it's scary, it's R-gangy. It feels like it takes place in the 1920s, 1930s, but there are zombies and monsters and crazy sidekicks, and it's just a lot of fun. So if you're looking for something new, if you picked up Saga and you're looking to try another independent creator-owned book, it's definitely not an apples-to-apples comparison, but it's one that is near and dear to my heart.
And near and dear to my heart is XFactor. My final pick of the week, or my pick of the week, I guess, is XFactor 233. This is the first issue with the full new team, where we've got Havoc and Polaris returned in a leadership capacity, which hasn't been the case since the 90s XFactor, which Peter David also wrote. I love XFactor. I try not to talk about it here because nobody else buys it. It's a low-selling title, but XFactor is consistently one of my favorite X books. And the new issue is no exception. It's moving along. Peter David's been controlling it from issue 1, and it's had a storyline that continues to grow and be more awesome. The cast of support characters they've got, the interaction with the rest of the Marvel Universe is just top-notch. David really knows what he's doing with things like this. And I can't recommend you pick up XFactor 233, because it's not a great jumping on point. But if you're interested in XFactor, the first trade is out. The original trade of the new series. It's great, or you can jump on through the other X crossovers. They played key roles in Messiah Complex and Second Coming. But XFactor, if you're missing out on it, it's a fantastic X book. It's a great team book. It's a great personality profile. It's got humor and romance and punching people, and it's great.
I second that. Staying in the realm of independent comics this week, we see the first volume of Last of the Greats available in graphic novel format, and this is written by Joshua Hale Fialkov, who is currently writing I, Vampire over at DC, and is, again, one of the up-and-coming writers that's making a name for himself in the world of comics. And this is about the Greats are godlike creatures who descend upon Earth, and we want them to be our saviors, and they aren't all nice people. And this is the last of the Greats. So it's definitely worth checking out, again, if you're looking for something new and different that involves superheroes to some extent. I can't recommend that one highly enough. And also I wanted to revisit a title that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and that's Near Death. Josh talked about the graphic novel when it came out a few weeks ago, and I hadn't read it at the time that we recorded our episode, but I've read it since then, and I liked it so much that I'm now reading the monthly series as it comes out. And it's basically about a hitman, an assassin that has a near-death experience and sees what his life could be like if he dies then, and spends the rest of his life burning in hell, and decides to make amends, and he's going to, for every person that he's killed, he's going to save a person. And he's killed a lot of people. So it's a lot of fun. Fun may not be the right word to talk about that, but I'm an older guy. I'm not that old, but one of the shows I loved watching as a kid, number one was Magnum P.I. I watched it because my mom watched it. I think she loved Tom Selleck and didn't tell my dad. But another great show, also on CBS, was The Equalizer. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was about kind of a former CIA guy that was very A-Team-esque. You know, you would hire him through the underground and he would bail you out of whatever bad situation you were in. And Near Death has a feel of both of those shows. In fact, in the new issue that came out, the writer Jay Farber writes an article about Magnum P.I. and how he loved it as a kid too. So I was like, oh, this makes sense for me to read it. So I encourage you to go back, check out the Near Death graphic novel and Last of the Greats if you're looking for that indie feel. That is it for this week. We do want to remind everybody this episode will go up before next Wednesday when we're having our in-store signing event with Mark L. Millar, not to be confused with Mark Millar spelled with an A at the end, who wrote Supercrooks this week. But Mark L. Millar is a Lima native. He is a graduate of Lima Senior High School right here in downtown Lima. Lives in Chicago now. He's one of the chief editors at Ain't It Cool News, at the website Ain't It Cool News. He goes by Ambush Bug. And his new comic book series, which is a reimagining of Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, comes out, and we'll have copies of the first issue, and he'll be here signing them. And the twist with this is that Mowgli is a female. There are 3 other female youths that are stranded on this island as infants and raised by the animals, and there's a big animal civil war going on, and Mark's really excited about this book. It's published by Zenescope Comics. It's supposed to be, I believe, a 5-issue miniseries, and Mark will be at our store, Alter Ego Comics, from 3 until 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 28th, and he'll be happy to talk comics and sign copies of Jungle Book #1, and we hope that you guys come out and support this Lima guy who made good, and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer questions from budding comic book writers and just talk comics. He's been in before. We love having him, and we're really looking forward to it, and hope you'll join us on the 28th between 3 and 6. Anything from you?
No.
No? Okay. Maybe next time. As always, we appreciate you checking out the videos here. Stop in the store. We're located at 230 North Main Street in downtown Lima, and you'll find our social media stuff at the end of the episode here. So thanks for watching.